Finn from the LEGO movies is an egg, and I've got receipts. First off, shout out to the Sin Squad for their The LEGO Batman movie video. It means I'm not the first or only one pointing at these films and going, this shit queer as fuck y'all. And yes, I am aware this is a CGI movie masquerading as stop motion of a Danish building block brand. Which is what makes it even wilder just how much of an egg Finn, or as I'm going to be referring to her from this point on, Lucy is. The pause there was deliberate. If you know these movies, you just oohed as it hit you. In case you do not know these movies, let me run them down for you. Oh, and obviously, massive fucking spoilers, both in the sense of thanks for telling me the plot, dipshit, but also, now that I know this take, I can never look at this thing the same and you robbed me of experiencing it with unclouded eyes. Thanks, asshole. On to the summary. A grown man treats LEGO more seriously than they should be and has a massive build in the basement. His eldest child would like to play with that big set instead of just the small one the child had been given, and as such constructs a narrative of a random minifigure named Emmett going on an adventure to stop Lord Business from using the Craggle to freeze everything in place by putting the thing stuck to his back on it to seal it. On the journey, he is accompanied by, mentored by, and helped by Lucy, also known as Wildstyle, a cool tough girl that's dating Batman and hides her past. In the end, the father recognizes the child's creativity, undoes all the crazy gluing on his build and plays with his child. In the sequel, a few years have passed. Our eldest child is trying to be a tough, edgy teen with a new narrative, while their sister just wants to spend time with her older sibling, and so takes some of the eldest child's most treasured minifigs and runs to her room, resulting in a fight and the eldest child smashing something the younger sister was proud of, making their mom decide to put away all the LEGO that's making her kids fight. The eldest child realizes they're being an ass and that their sister just wants to spend time together, and so they make up and rebuild the thing. The narrative these events present have Emmett try and go save his friends that were kidnapped by an invader from the Sistar system off of their now Mad Maxed world. He gets knocked out and trapped in another system where he spends years until he is able to build a time-traveling spaceship, which, when I tell you the next part, you'll start seeing things. Lets future Emmett, now calling himself Rex, go and save his younger self and take him on the journey, intending to make sure Emmett becomes the same cynical, destructive, hyper-masculine person that Rex is. And while that is going on, Queen Whatever I Wanna Be is trying to marry Batman to unite the systems, while Lucy is trying to escape, Wildstar specifically here, with her hidden past being revealed. This narrative ends with Wildstyle preventing the thing that turned Emmett into Rex from happening. From just these plot summaries, you won't exactly grasp what I'm alluding to in regards to Lucy, the human one, not the minifigure one, being an egg. And for those who aren't second puberty tits deep into trans culture, egg is a term for someone who hasn't realized they're trans yet. It is not kosher to use on actual people in the present tense. It's only for referring to yourself or others in the past and for fictional characters. And I'm saying this before transphobes call me a fucking groomer in the comments, which they'll probably do anyway because they're about as original as the sun rising in the east every morning. But those quick summaries are just that, quick summaries. It doesn't show any of my points, so let me go ahead and take you through both movies to show you the door that you have to open. That line would have been cooler if I got Lawrence Fishburne to read it. First movie, I'll start by mentioning some key characters. As I've hopefully established, there's two stories in both movies. The meta meat narrative and the plastic one. In the meat one, we have our erstwhile egg and her dad, the man upstairs. Lucy wants to change things, rebuild them, be creative, while her dad wants to build them in a specific way, mold them like that, and then make sure that they stay that way unchanging. A frighteningly huge amount of trans femmes watching this video just went bitch me to the fuck in regards to one or both of their parents, and I'm so So sorry for you all. Treat yourself to something nice. Right, key players in the LEGO narrative of the first LEGO movie. Can you tell I'm neurodivergent? So we've got Emmett, an extremely bland, generic, gullible construction worker minifigure from the LEGO City world called Bricksburg. His personality is that he follows instructions to the letter, especially how to live his life, resulting in him having no defining trait or characteristic that makes him special. Then we have Lucy, who starts the movie off using the codename Wildstyle. She's the cool punky girl with dyed strips of hair and a tough attitude who rescues Emmett from jail and most importantly, wanted to be the special, the protagonist of the story. But when I tell you what their dynamic brings to mind, well, you'll see it too. Yes, I made their reference twice now, thank you for noticing, there's a reason for that. After these two, we have Lord Business, the representative of human Lucy's dad in the LEGO narrative and our primary antagonist, his henchman, good/bad cop, and followed up by important side characters, the heroic master builders. Those are Vitruvius, Batman, Benny the astronaut, Melbeard the pirate, and Mother fucking Unikitty. Glory be to Unikitty, the other nail in the coffin of Lucy's tisness. I swear, if we didn't have the reality-influenced joke that bronies ended up either transitioning or going flash, I would not make as big of a deal out of her as I am. This script is a fucking mess and I'm not even that far into it. How the fuck do the Emilys and CJ and Batya and Aranock manage to make these? With our key players in place, let's go through the events of the first movie in order, so I can highlight not just the vibes, but the "someone call the fire department, this gun is setting this house on fire" smoking guns. The movie opens on Lord Business, voiced by Will Ferrell, taking the Craggle, and Vitruvius, who is voiced by Morgan Freeman, spouting a prophecy which is rhymed in such a way that it makes it feel as if the fellow, a special one with face of yellow, was there because human Lucy thought, wait, fuck, I'm supposed to be a boy and I'm making the hero of the story a boy, let me fix that. And then we get a very precise time skip of 8.5 years. Ergo, human Lucy is 8.5. And plenty of the hobbies and interests are expressed through the characters present do fit what you would expect of a boy that age. Well, do you know how many trans girls are comic book geeks or into sci-fi and fantasy? We tend to go towards escapism as well, and escape from the reality our existence embodies. It is at this point we meet our quote-unquote hero, the special, Matt Berkowski, voiced by upcoming Mario Jumpman Mario voice actor, the worst Chris. Eccleston is the best one and you can catch these hands if you disagree. Emmett is, as already stated, an extremely bland, generic, gullible construction worker minifigure with no characteristic that makes him distinct or special. And like everyone in Bricksburg, he follows the instructions. Also, I just remembered the origin of the name Emmet is the Hebrew word emet for truth, which the Prague Golem had on its forehead to awaken it, and this fun fact really only comes into play later in the story. Anyway, considering where the movie goes from there, the instructions really feel like instructions Lucy is getting on how to act and be, instructions that she doesn't want to follow because she was given the manual for boy and the pieces for it, but deep down wants to change the build into a girl, but she can only use those pieces she was given. It's a metaphor I thought of a while back, that were showed the building blocks and instructions for one build while wanting another, or that there's a piece we were given that makes it impossible to finish the build the way we were told. I'm not sure how off track I've gotten here, let's get back to the plot. Because now we get to see Emmett's daily life, his job, and how lonely he is because he is that bland and generic. It is then that he sees Wildstyle, who is out trying to find the piece of resistance, the cap for the cube of crazy glue that is the Craggle. Of course, she doesn't get to be the one to find it, Emmett is. He literally stumbles his way into it, getting a vision in the process. If you pay attention, you can hear some things, especially now it's your turn to be the hero. And while a nice sentiment and ties into the authorial reading of the story, it really doesn't do much for our reading. It does tie into the meat narrative though. With Emmett now attached to the piece of resistance, however, we next see him interrogated by Mr. Scop, a plural system of 2 consisting of Bad Cop and Good Cop, voiced by, of all people, Liam Neeson. Seriously, except for the worst Chris, this casting is all around excellent. It is also in this scene we find out that businesses endure plan, and like, I know he's a president of a megacorp and started as an oil company, but you have to make it this on the nose, Lord and Miller. Of course, Wild Styles comes in to save Emmett, because Emmett isn't the hero in this story, despite Lucy's ghostly voice telling him he is. He isn't the knight in shining armor, he isn't the badass school guy meant to save the world. He's the damsel in distress. And he isn't even a sexy lamp. Hell, his whole point is that anyone could have been him. Anyone. And that's why he's a no one. Wildstyle is the one taking charge in names. I'm going to be referring to Mythic Lucy as Wildstyle going forward, so that I can differentiate her from human Lucy. Alright? Alright. Plus, when she goes, let's not talk about my name. Like, girl, I know of girls that go through like 5 names before settling on one, but come on, no need to be insecure about it. The journey leads to the Old West realm, an exposition dump, and a dig at Bionicle that isn't even about them appropriating Maori. I know Lucy is too young to have grown up with them, considering the movies from 2014 and Bionicle's finished production in 2010, but come on! This outburst brought to you by the joke, if you want to flirt with a trans girl, ask her about Bionicle lore. The next sequence has just one important thing in it, identity erasure. After some exposition, Lord Business erases Good Cop from the cop system, meaning Bad Cop is the only one fronting after that. And this is really an extension of Lord Business's obsession with order and things being exactly as he wants them to be. It makes me worried what the man upstairs could have said to Lucy for her to see him this way. We then jump back to Wildstyle and Emmett, meeting with Rubius, who has them enter and explore Emmett's mind. And hey, it's the heads of all my peers, no thoughts head empty! Can I get an action scene now? I think it's time we get an action scene. I'm picturing a lovely chase scene that ends in our trio being rescued by Wildstyle's boyfriend Batman. Now, I'm the biggest lesbian around, but I'm fairly certain the bi girls in the audience have a favorite Batman they would have crushed on. So can we get a bi rights in the chat for Lucy? Especially as we're now driving up the rainbow to Cloud Cuckoo Land. Sheesh, I thought I was up and subtle with the pride flag behind me. Cloud Cuckoo Land is the one place that is all Lucy's. No rules, no sadness, just cute cotton candy fluff and glitter courtesy of Princess Unikitty. A party only an 8-year-old could come up with. No bushy mustaches. Ma'am, I only have the 2 arms. I can't hold all these hints and moods. And also, it is not healthy to bury your feelings, Unikitty. It so is not healthy to bury your feelings of dysphoria and depression down and work only off of toxic positivity. I am also not all too hyped about the presence of one minifigure that's therefore a joke. Although I'm not going to lie, reading the Lego catalog when I was younger and seeing those sets made me want them a lot. I was 8 and she was only anti-Semitic and racist and fatphobic at the time. She wasn't an existential risk for me. Anyways, Emmett screws up, revs himself apart verbally, which he should, he's worst Chris, and Bad Cop shows up to destroy Cloud Cuckoo Land, because Emmett has a tracker stuck to his leg. Bad Cop captures everyone except our main characters, who escape in a submarine that falls apart due to it being a chaotic mess of different parts, only to be rescued by Metalbeard, thinking that Emmett's double-decker couch was so stupid his ideas might work. And Emmett suggests of all things, to follow the instructions, because it's the last thing a lore business will expect. And while it is true, the reason why a significant chunk of parents exclaim with "there were no signs" when their trans child comes out is because we hide it. We know which aspects of us we have to bury and repress to make them not suspect a thing. For example, I only dared watch the Barmy movies when they were airing them on German TV when I knew I couldn't be caught doing so. German TV because there are no Czech kids channels and the one we have now is for toddlers. Plus, it is what we, without access to informed consent or great market hormones, have to lower ourselves to. Gotta play the right song and dance for the gatekeeper, or so they give us hormones. It's humiliating and traumatizing. But the plan fails. The gang gets captured, Bounty use their brains to make instructions. After we find out the prophecy was all made up, Emmett gets kicked down into the abyss. The abyss known as the basement floor. Here is where the movie gets weird and meta. It is too unclear how much of the Lego narrative actually happened and how much is just the, narrative that Lucy is building with her dad's Lego build. It especially becomes confusing when Emmett, who is supposed to be a sentient piece of plastic, sure, but a stationary one, at this moment, manages to wiggle himself off of the table and onto the floor for Lucy to pick up and return to the story. Like the golem, a creature of clay, moving when the word Emmett is written on its forehead. He's got it on his leg. Boom! Brought it back around! The day is saved when Lucy's dad notices all the creativity on display, asks about the story, and recognizes he's being a complete ass with his Danish plastic toy bricks. And of course, now that Lucy can come play, so can her much younger sister with her Duplos. That was a fun first movie, wasn't it? I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's enough for us to build a full case off of. It's a lot of stuff, as you can see, it covers 2 whole pages of this script. Thankfully though, this isn't where the story ends. Oh no, there's the second part. But before I get to that, let's talk Lego and gender. In a world of pink and blue aisles, Lego used to be the most prominent and at times only yellow option. Or to make a huge joke, magenta and cyan aisles, with yellow still being only Lego. The black aisle is for mommies and is not in Walmart or Target. Lego were and are building blocks. It was up to the kid to build what they wanted with them, create imaginative worlds and stories. Everyone loves Lego. It was gender neutral, hence the yellow. But as Lego began shifting towards pre-made sets instead of loose bricks, sets that became marketing for franchises, with the first 2 prominent big ones I can think of being Star Wars and Harry Potter, the perception of them shifted. Gender-panicked cis parents began seeing the yellow move towards green, and then eventually cyan. Legos became a boys' toy, and it nearly killed the company. Going into the aughts, Lego was hemorrhaging money. A lot. Millions in deficits. And yes, lost money is not exactly a concept that exists, but when you're a toy company producing physical products with material costs, well, then it becomes a thing. And for the record, I tried to get sources better than Wikipedia for this, but the only ones I have accessible for free show their growth from 2012 onward. It does not show the massive dip in, their profitability, their marketing stuff. But yeah, due to their own brand deals, Lego lost half its former market. Lost all the young girls that loved to build because parents didn't see pink or purple bricks, they didn't see cutesy dolls, no. They saw superheroes and sci-fi and fantasy and assumed it was for boys. It's important to remember why Lego was such a popular toy. It's because it is a unified system. If you get a set from Marvel, a set from Ninjago, and a set from, let's say, Overwatch, Minecraft, Mario? Been a while since I looked into all the brands they have. Nevertheless, you get those sets and you can mix and match the bricks to create practically anything. You can have Iron Man riding Diva's mecha while Tracer's fighting Minecraft skeletons. This was their biggest appeal. So in 2008, the LEGO Group started conducting research on what they could do to have girls buy the sets again. They found that girls tend to like having things inside the builds to do stuff with, to build narratives with, as well as quickly building something and then changing it as the need arises. This led to them in 2012 releasing the LEGO Friends sets. Instead of classical minifigures, the set included mini dolls, more cutesy and realistically proportioned figures for the audience to play with, but outside of that, it still worked with the system. You could get the smoothie bar set from LEGO Friends as a young girl and then decide your mini dolls deserve to go on a space adventure to a planet of unicorns to rescue them, meaning you need a spaceship. And oh, would you look at that, this set is all about spaceships. The LEGO Group managed to do something with their toy line that a lot of other companies don't manage. It is why they returned to their most profitable slot after the release of LEGO Friends, outselling Mattel, and why their sales have only grown. After losing the Yellow Isle classification due to their own actions which shifted them towards cyan, they established a new magenta collection and through it built a yellow bridge, not exactly being gender neutral anymore, but providing options for everyone that can play together. So while people ripped into LEGO Friends for being that feminine, if it wasn't for them, we might not have LEGO anymore. And we wouldn't have gotten the first movie. Never mind the second part. Speaking of the second part starts right where the previous movie ended, with Bricksburg under threat by the invaders from planet Duplon. And it is clear that they are under the control of a 4-year-old. Or, well, can you really call it control? With how Emmett wiggled in real space to make Lucy notice him, it is hard to tell how much of the LEGO narrative is made up by the kids playing with them and how much it is actually happening. But yeah, we open on the start of the invasion, with Emmett trying to show peace by constructing a heart and giving it to the Duplons, who love it. But because their anchor is a 4-year-old girl with no concept of consequences and no ability to communicate, she doesn't know how to convey it. So the Duplons eat and clean the heart and then keep asking for more, only for Wild Style to declare an attack. An attack that upsets the Duplons and sets the stage. Oh, and Lord Business leaves to go golfing. Nice absconding of your parental duties, man upstairs. Weren't those bricks yours up till 5 minutes ago? It's 5 years later. LEGO playtimes have turned into fights between Lucy and her sister, as Lucy doesn't understand her and Bianca, which is the sister's name, cannot really talk. And it is why Bricksburg has become Apocalypseburg. Ever heard about Chunibyo, colloquially known in the Western otaku sphere as 8th grader syndrome? It is the attempt by young teens to be dark and edgy to try and be special. There's the delinquent type, the superpower type, but we're not focusing on that. Just, I'm mentioning it because, well, Lucy's got it hard. Really fucking hard. We've all tried to be cool and edgy and more mature as teens, I'm sure. Especially when we're trying to bury our feelings, trying very hard to grow up in the hopes that it will erase our dysphoria, that we can leave it behind as something childish. It's why you see so many 25-year-old Redditor catgirl trans femmes for making up for lost time, for not being that at 13 when it is most appropriate, either through our own volition or through enforcement. Mind you, I'm not a catgirl or Redditor, I'm squarely in the DeviantArt for reformative years zone. Back to the movie at hand though, Because Emmett hasn't moved on with the times. He's still his cheery, naive, gullible self, and he's kind of getting shit for it. When it comes to Lucy's representations in the narrative, Emmett is what she wants to leave behind. She thinks it's the joyful optimism of Emmett that doesn't fit with the gritty play, but it is in fact masculinity evident in Emmett. Sure, as masculinity goes, his is non-toxic, but it's still masculinity Lucy wants to reject without realizing it. Emmett is what she thought she should be, but doesn't want to be. Also, you need to remember that this movie came out after the Lego Batman movie, which, by the way, is also an excellent movie, and as I've mentioned in the opening of this video, very queer. Go watch the Sin Squad's video on it, and a little bird told me that Aranock's gonna be making a video on it on the future, so I'm excited to see that. Nevertheless, I'm pointing this out because of how Batman is acting during his introduction in Apocalypseburg. The next segment we get though is honestly kind of cute, with Emmett trying to restore things to the nicer way they were before by building a cute new house. The cutest part is of course Princess Unikitty Apocalypse Edition purring away in her own room. We love our princess, don't we? We especially love her after Emmett and Wildcell have a heart-to-heart about Emmett needing to grow up, and Unikitty becomes a giant awesome beast to go figure out what the new invader is. And the new invader is delightful in the chase scene, especially because all the projectiles are cutesy shaped and voiced by Sam Lavagnino. You know, Catbug, ASDF Movies Muffin. For a teen, his voice is iconic, and it will be both a loss and a gain for the world of voice acting when he hits puberty, if he hasn't hit it already. The chase sequence, while fun though, and shows that someone let a 13-year-old watch Mad Max Fury Road, is really something we can skip over for the important plot beat. Cheryl Mayhem of the Sistar system introduces herself, does a cheeky "We're so subversive" by pointing out how we didn't do a gaslight gatekeep girl boss last movie, and kidnaps Batman, Wildstyle, Penny, Unikitty, and Melbeard because the Queen is inviting them to a wedding where Batman is to be the groom. Hey, did you know RSVP stands for Répondez s'il vous plaît, which is just reply if it pleases you in French? Aren't we bougie etiquette rules fun? After the kidnapping, we see Emmett fail to raise an army and go on the journey by himself. But it takes a bit for us to return to him as we focus on her gang in the Sistar system at the moment, as they go meet Queen Whatever I Wanna Be. And I know it isn't in vogue to have genderfucky shapeshifters as queer rep and also down with the monarchy, but I have to say I really vibe with the Queen. The movie turns into a musical at this point because it is very fluid in terms of is this play or is this real, and this part of the narrative is controlled by Bianca, the younger sister. Also, I have to say I really vibe with the Sparkle Gem vampire lady with a purple side shave of crystal hair like girl me too the fuck. Queen Whatever I Wanna Be is terrible at communication though, coming off as a malicious evil entity by singing a song about how she isn't that. When the song finishes, we're told about the wedding, she sends our stinky apocalypse gang to take a fucking shower. Hey, all this isn't an anime con, take care of yourselves. Like, I know you don't want to because being naked reminds you of your body changing in ways that hurt you and you don't know why, and you'd rather ignore it by not seeing it, but smelling like shit will only make you feel worse, Lucy. Take it from me. Now we jump back to Emmett. Dear, sweet, naive Emmett, who is trying to make his way through the stair gate and into the Sistar system, only to need rescuing. And rescued he gets by Rex Dangervest. Should I talk about him now or later during the important reveal? I'll keep it for the reveal. I mean, I already said it all the way at the start, but it'll help with the flow of ideas here for me to do that. Rex saves Emmett, Emmett gets a role model, and they're off to save Wildstyle and the gang, which is in the middle of getting a spa treatment. a spa treatment that results in Wildstyle's hair getting undyed. Not in the way you may think though. She doesn't lose the pink and blue stripes, she loses the black. Her hair is naturally 2/3 of the trans flag. The path she's trying to hide is cutesy and sweet, like an egg being a kind, gentle soul, but getting that beaten out of them by their environment. And also that she was the front woman for the band that sung Everything Is Awesome, which is why she hates the song so much, because it was her dark past where she was a cog in the, pop culture machine. And I realized that's not revealed until the very end of the movie, but I figure I mention it because knowing this, it's easy to read the desire to hire feminine interests to avoid punishment for gender transgression into it. We start jumping back and forth a lot here between Wildstyle and Emmett up until they meet up. We're shown that the play Bianca has with the minifigs is much nicer than the harsh apocalyptic environment Lucy is providing them in her brooding tuning units. And we get another song, the one that promises to get stuck in our heads. It does. Fuck me, does it ever. And Rex is trying to convince Emmett that all the other minifigs have been brainwashed by the Queen, which, considering Batman is flossing, I'd be fit to believe it too. Song ends with Rex teaching Emmett how to break things. We then get the cute reunion of Emmett and Wildstyle. This leads us into another song, where the Queen goes for reverse psychology to have Batman agree to the wedding, which they need to do before Armageddon happens. And let me tell you, it's a bop. When the songs aren't jokes, they're excellent. But of course, Emmett, Wildstyle, and Rex infiltrate the kitchen to see the cake being made, which confuses them. How could it summon the end of the world? It is also here that Lucy's hair is revealed and Rex starts undermining her, claiming she's brainwashed. Emmett doesn't buy it yet, thankfully. This leads to us getting a fight between Wildstyle and General Mayhem, during which Rex continues trying to make Emmett think Lucy is brainwashed. This results in Mayhem losing her helmet, revealing how cute she is, and that the wedding is to try and stop Armageddon, not cause it. Because the fighting was started by Lucy misunderstanding Bianca, by Bianca being too young to really talk, but loving what her older sister built and being inspired by her and wanting to build as well. And the only reason General Mayhem acted all tough and badass? Lucy wouldn't listen, and Bianca continued being awful at talking and expressing herself and thought that was the only way to get through to Lucy. Like, can you expect a 9-year-old to be good at that? Can you expect a 4-year-old to be good at that, which is when this whole thing started? You can't. Wildstyle starts understanding though. She finally gets it once she sees the Queen's original form. The heart Emmett built when the Duplons first arrived. The heart that inspired the entirety of the Sistar system. They're not the bad guys. Rex is. Listen closely when I tell you this next part. It's important that you do. Especially because the rule of threes now obliges me to explain why I've said "when I tell you" 3 times. When I Tell You is a movie script by Mia Moore about a trans woman going back in time to meet her younger ex-self and help prevent some mistakes. Her name is Naomi, and there is a running joke of posting movie screenshots of blonde dudes and their manic pixie dream girls with the caption "when I tell you," basically suggesting the blonde dude transitions into the manic pixie dream girl. So while Wildstyle is the Naomi in this allegory, Rex is the antithesis. An older, damaged you trying very hard to turn you into themselves. Both Emmett and Rex represent denial. One of things having changed and needing to change, and the other of truth. It makes sense why Rex's name is no longer Truth in Hebrew, but King in Latin. Imagine the following scenario. You're a depressed, dysphoric teen, and 2 future yous show up. One is a really pretty, vibrant, happy girl, and the other is a bitter dude. They're both from the future, and they're both hoping to help you guide towards themselves. But while the happy girl wants you to be happy in yourself, the bitter dude wants you to become an exact copy of him, to basically guarantee his existence. The twist in this example is that the bitter dude is you 3 years in the future, and the happy girl is you 6 years in the future. And she's hoping to skip over that bitter stage to make sure you don't suffer like the bitter dude did. In the case of the Lego movie though, Rex's origin is very specific. When he tried to go save Wildstyle and the others, he did not make it through the stairgate. He got knocked under the dryer, where he stayed for a long time until he willed himself to move and meet space. He then built a time machine to save Emmett and cause Armageddon, making sure Emmett becomes him in the process and that he can be free of the narrative space. Making sure he becomes a bitter, lonely, heartbroken guy whose only goal in life is destruction, because nobody came to save him. And Emmett helps him achieve his goal, inadvertently. Armageddon happens. Wildstyle gets knocked into meat space, seeing what happens, what Armageddon really is. Lucy's and Bianca's mom has them put away all the Lego because they can't play together without a fight starting. Rex tosses Emmett under the dryer to become him. We get another song. Lucy sees the heart and goes to apologize to her sister. Wildstyle reaches Emmett, and because she came for him, came to rescue him, Rex never happens. Emmett never becomes the bitter, destructive sad guy. Lucy gets over her edginess and plays with her sister. I think it's a sweet end, and I do hope Lucy figures herself out soon and comes out. It's a lot of small things that come together into a whole for this reading, especially the narratives presented in these stories and which characters are developed. Because, fuck, I didn't even cover the fact that every time Rex introduces himself, it includes a bunch of macho occupations that are also some of Worst Chris's most known roles. A toxic role model, bury you attempting to be as masculine as possible. I hope Lucy doesn't end up growing a denial beard. Actually, let me go back to the whole representations in the narrative thing. Lucy has 3 that shows different aspects of her that she has to reconcile. Wildstyle is the past and true self she's trying to hide with the whole Sharpie hair and name change. Emmett is who she thinks she's supposed to be, following instructions like a good little generic boy. And Rex? Rex has her if she gets red-pilled. Rex in the narrative only happens because Emmett fails. Emmett gets lost, has nobody around him, and grows bitter and resentful and becomes a pillar of toxic masculinity. He is Lucy raging against the machine, yelling, "Is this what you want? Are you satisfied now?" To hide the pain, her dysphoria at the puberty she's starting, turning it up to 11. It is why the day is saved only when Wildstyle, no longer hiding her past, no longer ashamed of who she used to be, who she is in fact, comes to save Emmett. Community saves lives. I can tell you how much it hurt to think I was the only queer person for miles, that there was nobody around who could understand me. If I hadn't met Mordred Transmom on Tumblr and became friends with her, I don't know where I would be today. Probably nowhere healthy. Wildstyle is Lucy's true self, and saving Emmett represents her saving the cheerful optimism of him, but not the masculinity. When Lucy plays with her sister at the end, it isn't destructive like before. Her questions of, "What kind of dance party is this?" sound more like, "Bianca, come on, we can do better," instead of being dismissive. And it ties into the meta-narrative of what Lego was undergoing. As I mentioned earlier, Lego was dying until it introduced femininity into itself to regain its yellow owl position, and this is shown in the second part. It is only when Lucy accepts her sister being part of her life and part of her play that Armageddon is reversed. Both of these movies show the importance of self-expression when faced with enforced conformity. That only you can do what you do, that only you can be you. And that is even more important for queer people, especially queer youth, to see. We're living through the worst part of a culture war right now. Legislation is proposed to make the lives of trans people hell. As I'm recording this video, a day before, porn actress, cis-one porn actress, that is a known sexual assaulter and rapist, posted an entire manifesto screed asking, encouraging the lynchings and genocide of a trans woman. And the media keeps representing us as the monsters. In face of all that, it is important we shave half our head, dye the rest purple, flip the double baller at the establishment and go, fuck you, you don't control me, you're never getting rid of me. Honestly, it's kind of a bummer the other two LEGO movies don't have this much of a meta-narrative to them. But at least the LEGO Batman one is about Batman not wanting to admit that Joker is his nemesis, which is code for doesn't want to admit they're boyfriends, as proposed in the Sinspot video. If you still have access to your bricks, go grab them and play. I'm sure they'll appreciate not being doomed to an eternity in a cosmic storage bin. Hey, thanks so much for watching. This was my very first video essay that I ever wrote. It wasn't the first thing I ever wrote, since I'm an author, got a book out. You can see the title of it on my VTuber's chest here, you know, Deviled Egg, Gourmet Deviled Egg. You can find it on Amazon or Itch. I'll link both in the description. Nevertheless, I have to give a big shout out and a lot of thanks to both LadyKnightTheBrave and Aranock for checking out the script and helping me with it and giving me a lot of help with this video overall. I respect them both as creators, as essayists, and I'm glad to have had them in a little bit of a mentor role when making this video. I'm certain this isn't gonna be my only video on this kind of topic, on covering trans themes or trans readings of different, you know, things. It was very easy with Finn and the LEGO movie, but next time I'm gonna try and cover the Elric siblings from Fullmetal Alchemist, because Edward, well, he's a short trans mask king, while Alphonse, well, Alphonse is a bit of a dashing dapper dyke, if you know what I mean. So that's gonna be the next video in this specific series covering trans readings, but I have other stuff to talk about. Other stuff to talk about. Nevertheless, I have to really thank everybody that supported me up until now, everybody that's supporting me on Patreon, and in fact, the names that you can see now over there, up there, are my current $5 patrons on the Archangel tier. And so I decided, because they're supporting me on the Archangel tier, I would list their list their names here in the end card, in the little ending bit. But of course, there is something else that you do when you have a Patreon and start making video essays, and you have people giving you more money than just $5. You start reading their names at the end credits. So a huge shout out to my principalities, don't have any authorities, which are 20 bucks, to principalities, which are the $10 patrons, which are Safira, Grimet, Phoenix Master Giovanni, which is one of my partners, Tobias Paul, Kylie the Healer Witch, and Iron Rain. If you want to hear your name in this credits, you can support me on Patreon by following the link in the description. You can read all my things on Patreon as well. or itch.io, or most of them you can read on Scribble Hub. All that will be linked down in the description below. I've been Katie. I've been saying some nonsense that makes hopefully sense, and I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll come watch my next video when it comes out.